Well, the BRICS countries are at it again. They are tearing the world into two parts and is causing a lot of problems for everybody. Even Russia comes out with a 2-hour speech on national identity, and it's causing the world to separate. And they're talking about their ideological lines being very, very different. China may or may not be supplying weapons to Russia, which is going to be strengthening the BRICS resolve. BRICS is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. They formed an agreement that they're going to work amongst each other and maybe even make a reserve currency. This is their statement, a reserve currency backed by gold and commodities, not backed by faith in the US government or the Canadian government, but it's going to be backed by something and it's going to challenge the world reserve currency. Here we are, the world is separating into two. The problem is they constitute like 40% of the world's population and a huge amount of the world GDP. So on one side, you have Russia, who has all the wheat and all the other raw commodities, and they're like, we're not going to sell it to Europe or North America anymore. China makes stuff and they're like, we're not going to sell it to North America anymore. Well, the funny thing is when they sell their stuff, they actually get currency for it, and that's how they build their economy. And Canada and the United States and Europe, they produce fine goods and they do a lot of the finances of the world and so forth. They got a lot of stuff, medical advancement, but then they now in return don't want to share back and forth. This is like a physical war. When we're talking about Russia and Ukraine, though they're talking about one country winning, one country losing, even if you win, and you go to that pile of rubble in London in 1945, they won the World War. Piles of rubble, everybody's dead or injured, the country's finances are broken. Did you win? The fact is everybody loses in a situation like this. So this economic war that they're separating the world into two parts is only going to cause a lot of problems. I have a lot of slides to show you today, you guys. I promise you it's going to make a lot more sense once you get through it. All right, so let's jump into our first one. BRICS is discussing their decision on Saudi Arabia and Iran's memberships later this year. This is a big problem. They have to talk about their consensus and criteria recommendations, principles, and approaches on how they're going to do this. Now, they're not alone. We're also seeing Egypt's parliament is trying to jump into BRICS as well. And here is the thing, a lot of South African countries like Argentina want to join in. If you're in these countries that have massive inflation going through the roof, some countries 1,000% a year, they want to exchange their money into something that is more stable. And, US dollar was used like that for a long, long time. The problem with the US dollar is that they are printing a lot of it and it's having massive inflation as well. From 2020 onward, as you know, they printed trillions of dollars and everybody is seeing it in their pocketbooks. So this is going to cause a lot of problems. But the biggest one is Saudi Arabia. Now, let's look why Saudi Arabia. Please go to Investopedia and look up how petrodollars affect US dollars. Now, petrodollars are not a currency, it says. They're simply US dollars that have been exchanged for crude oil exports. So foreign oil exporters' reliance on the US dollar as the principal means of exchange and store of value reflected in today's dollar as the global reserve currency. Now, there's a couple things that are missing there, and there's a misstatement. Notice that it says that the dollar, notice that word there, store of value. This is not a store of value if the governments are printing a lot of it. It means that you're losing a lot of its value consistently over and over as the government is printing too many of it. In 1974, when they did this, remember, they're in the Middle East. There's a lot of hostile countries around them. They're causing a lot of problems. They need help. So the US comes in and says, guys, we got destroyers, battleships, we can protect you. If we protect you, will you allow all of this cheap energy to flow out of the Middle East, out of Saudi Arabia to North America? And also, all oil that you sell has to be denominated in dollars. So when they did that, now any country of the world that needs oil has to first buy US dollars and then buy the oil. Canada as well. We're all involved in this. The whole world is set up in this. This is the petrodollar system. Now, I want to show you Saudi Arabia on a map. If you look at Saudi Arabia, they're kind of hemmed in. There's nowhere to go. They're kind of landlocked. There is some water on the sides, but if you notice here on this side, the Red Sea, of course, they can go through the Suez Canal. A little bit of it goes up there into Europe. But if you check out down here, they have to cross this tiny little strait right by Yemen, huge hot spot, past Djibouti and Africa, a little mouth. They need help over on that side. In as well, if you look over here, the Persian Gulf, where all the wars were, we remember those back in the 90s. There's this little couple kilometers of water right here called the Strait of Hormuz. Let's see if it pops up if we get close enough. There you go, Strait of Hormuz. If you look at that couple kilometers that is spread right there, it's the most important couple kilometers on the planet because all of the oil flows out there from Iraq, from Kuwait, from Iran, from Saudi Arabia. All of them, Oman, all of it has to ship oil out right past this couple kilometers. So whoever controls those couple kilometers controls the world's oil price. Imagine the power at that tiny little opening. So this is why Saudi Arabia needed a lot of help. And so if they had that US military there protecting them, they were willing to sign that deal in 1974. Here is the problem. That's going away. That's going away. So where are you going to get all of the oil then? And it's not just oil. The deal that US had made was if they patrol all the oceans and keep them all safe, everyone can trade with everybody. Now the US is pulling away and not doing that anymore. It's not just oil, my friends. Oil, you're going to notice right away. No oil, you can't drive your car anymore, right? But there's a lot of other things that you buy. I challenge you, go to Walmart and try and buy something that is all made in Canada or everything made in the US. It's not possible. So there is a big problem that is coming. If we go here on Statistica, you can check out what the capital expenditures is in the United States. If you notice, it is not just even staying even, it's dropping to abysmal levels. Now, why would something like that be? Now, just think about this. If you desperately needed oil, you have to continually maintain it. Like your car, you need to maintain it. So why is this chart going down and down and down? It's very, very simple. All of Europe, all of North America is talking about green energy only now, and we will no longer use oil after so many years. Imagine for you to go and find oil, billions of dollars, to drill down to the bottom of the ocean, billions of dollars, building ships to bring it here, billions of dollars, pipelines, billions of dollars, refineries, billions of dollars. It could take you 10 years to build it all. Maybe it depends on which ones, could be 7 years or something, a long, long time to build it. And it could take 10 years of running it before you break even and start making your profit. So imagine in a world here where they're saying we're not going to have oil anymore in 5 years. What are they supposed to do? No company is going to put any money into something that they're guaranteed to lose hundreds of billions of dollars. And here we go. Here is that chart. Every single year, they are spending less and less and less money looking for oil and gas to the tune of $1 billion a day. $1 billion a day. Now, you cannot make that up. I don't care if you had all the money on the planet. You can't snap your fingers and bring this online immediately. And this is one of our major, major problems. The BRICS nations are already pulling away, and Saudi Arabia wants to join. If Saudi Arabia decides, and they already have, to start taking Chinese yuan in exchange for the oil, and now they want to allow everybody to no longer purchase US dollars. They don't need to do it. You don't need to buy US dollars to buy oil. You can just pay us with whatever you want. What does that do for the demand of the US dollars? Demand for US dollars goes way, way down. Nobody needs it anymore. Okay, so how much debt is there right now in the system, you guys? Well, a lot. If you look at Japan, this is in billions of dollars. So Japan owes $1 trillion. But what we're seeing with China, China is unloading at the fastest rate in history their US debt. They don't want it anymore. They think it's garbage. Remember, Japan is signed on to Europe and North America, and Japan are all tied together. Japan isn't going to get rid of this, you guys. Japan's going to be sticking around for a long time. China is dumping it like crazy. We already know that all the money that the United States froze, it's not going back to Russia. But as you see, these are hundreds of billions of dollars. Taiwan, India, France, all these countries own US debt. Massive, massive problem. So how much is that? If we looked it all up, that's somewhere around $7 trillion. So the world owes $7 trillion. What happens if they all didn't want it anymore? Imagine that. Who's going to buy it? Only the Federal Reserve of the United States. So if they buy all of that, what happens? Do you think inflation goes up or down? Way up. If we now have to get our oil ourselves, first of all, it could take 7 years to build everything. That's inflationary. So where is the deflation going to come? Sure, there's always cross currents. There's going to be some down, but the majority of it is going to be up, 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 up. And so as we have had high inflation around the world and the United States continues to raise their interest rates and thus your mortgage, check out right here the 10-year treasury. As we know that over the past few years, it got really, really low where they were paying you a fraction of a percentage as interest. And now it's sitting at 4%. And that's a 4% guaranteed. They call it a risk-free rate. Nothing that you have to do. Just put it in and we're going to make 4% for you. Crazy, right? So you're going to make a lot of money over here. Now, we haven't seen that going back for a long, long time that it's been this high. So what has happened? Everyone's buying treasuries now. And look at the repo facilities. So this is the overnight reverse repurchase agreements. This is where bank to bank lending happens. If you go look at the reverse repo, how much money is sitting in there? If you go all the way back, it's always ticking very, very, very low. Nothing you can see. And starting in 2021, it just exploded higher how much money is sitting in there. The world is awash with money as money has come back to the US. This could be highly inflationary for people. Now, people ask us all the time is how bad can it get? How much inflation could there possibly be? And what I'm going to tell you is I'm preparing for a 10% inflation per year for the next 5 years. So I want you to remember that we got to watch for inflation and it can get a lot worse. How bad? I mean, let's take a look at the worst example ever. If we look at Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe's inflation doesn't look like it was doing much down here. But guys, look at this 10 times, 100 times. This is the Zimbabwe dollar to US dollar. Even down here, it was exploding at hundreds of percent per year. But please notice what it says on the left side, 10 to the 12th power, to the 13th power, to the 14th power. It went bananas. So what does that actually mean? If we go take a look at what $1 was worth in 2007, later on in 2008, that $1 would have been worth $1 trillion. So I actually went and bought a bill and this is $1 billion. So I officially now am a billionaire. But this $1 billion would not have even bought you a coffee. And that's how fast inflation can take off. Now, it's not going to happen like that in Canada and the States, but I do expect to see 10% inflation per year. Now, you might not see that on TV. They might say that we have won the war on inflation. We've got it down to 3%, which I don't even believe. But remember, you're going to see prices affecting you a lot differently. In the store, you're going to see food prices going up and up and up and up, even though on paper it may not show it. Remember, there's the CPI, the consumer price index that you see on the news, and then there's the real number. So even though today they're going to say CPI is at 5%, I ask you to please, do you think that your monthly payments have only gone up 5% this year? Do you think food has only gone 5%? Do you think oil has only gone up 5%? Everyone is telling me that it's way, way higher, and that's what I see as well. So there's real inflation. Just look at our money supply, and you're going to get a much better idea of where we are. So United States and Canada, how linked are we? If we look at the United States, Canada's top 5 export countries, the United States is number 1 at 48%. Notice number 2 is China at 14% and everything else. If we go down the list as far as you want to go, everything on the entire planet combined is still less than what we send out to the US. Canada and the United States are intrinsically linked. It is the largest trading partner. So we always grew up with the term that if the United States catches a cold, the rest of the world catches the flu. And that is the case with Canada because everything that we do here, we send to the US. So where we do manufacturing in Canada, it's generally for like automotive or something, but we're finishing cars here with cheaper labor than the US. But Canada's main thing is natural resources, where we're sending out fertilizer and food and some oil, but we don't refine to fine products or heavy manufacturing. We send out a lot of base stuff. So that's a big opportunity for Canada to be able to re-onshore a lot of their manufacturing and make stuff, finished product stuff. So let me tell you, when I was younger, I was a cabinet maker. And so we would go to wood shops, and Canada had a lot of wood, but none of our finished products were wood. And at the time, there were Japanese ships just sitting off of the Canadian shore. So we would cut down the trees, send them out by boat to a Japanese vessel. I don't think they do it anymore. They would then mill all of the wood and send it back to Canada. They would go and do the work here. But in your roundabout way, why wouldn't Canada just finish that? Why wouldn't we finish it? And it doesn't make a lot of sense. Why would we take oil from Alberta, send it for refinement down the US, buy it back? Doesn't make a lot of sense. But we have opportunities that we could do. But remember, there's a lot that's going to come back. The biggest industry in Canada and the United States by far is housing. Housing is down huge. Where I live, housing is down 25% and will be dropping another 15%. So understanding where we are in the world right now is very important for you to make good decisions moving forward about the types of jobs you have and making sure that you're not going to be margin called on your home. As home prices continue to drop, more and more people are going to be called in. Though everything is okay now, remember there's always a lag effect. And so when interest rates go up, there's about an 18-month delay, 12 to 18 months before it shows up in housing. Now, we've already seen a lot of it, but we're only halfway through that. Like in baseball, we're like the fourth inning right now. We haven't seen foreclosures or powers of sales or anything like that pop up in the market. There's a lot more stuff that's going to be happening. I believe I'm the only guy that I've seen in the market over the past year that was telling people it was not a good time to buy and you should be considering selling. And now we are in Toronto where a $1.5 million home is down $500,000 so far. And so a lot of people are going to be squeezed. A lot of people are going to be hurt. I really don't want that to be any of you. I hope that you stay safe and make smart moves to look after your family. And please, please, please educate yourself. It is not easy. We just had a comment earlier today, and they said, when is housing going to go up in the world and down in the world? We can't be that naive to believe that all housing is the same around the world, every single country, every single place. It doesn't happen. Even in Toronto, where I live, in one square block, you'll have one-bedroom condos going down, two-bedroom condos going up, three-bedroom condos dropping a lot. And you'll have commercial space on the bottom floor that it might be a bank and it might be doing okay, or the small subway that is going down. And then next door, you'll have a semi-detached house that is dropping huge in value. It is so hyper specific. It never is all this or all that. So this is why I caution people to ask one sentence answers. When will oil be back? Or when will home rates drop? It gets very, very large, that picture. The best books of last year, I recommend everyone reading this book by Ray Dalio. This book is incredible. Also, this book by Peter Zian, The End of the World is Just the Beginning. If you want to understand where we are in the cycle of time, these two books are like a college course. Please take a screenshot of this. Anyway, I wish you guys the very best. Please remember, you can't do anything to beat inflation yourself besides educating yourself first. And after you educate yourself, learn to outpace inflation. Inflation is coming whether you like it or not. It's like saying nightfall is coming and it's going to get dark and cold. Yes, it's coming. There's nothing you could do about that. But what you could do is prepare, get some wood, get a sleeping bag, make sure you're going to be okay for the night. The same is when there are recessions. This is a natural cycle, but this is also a short-term and long-term debt cycle. There's different ways that you can prepare yourself for this and get better educated and in a better position. One of those things is always buying some gold and silver. I hope that this helped you guys a lot. This isn't meant to be stressful, but it's meant to be educational. And I'm trying to make you be eternally curious. Ask questions and not simple questions. Really, why does this turn into this, turn into this? It's very, very easy for us to look at a house and say, why is a window so expensive? But where does the glass come from? Where is it made? How much does it cost to ship it? Where does the plastic around the edge come from? Maybe it's coming from the Middle East and going up to Europe to be made into windows before it's shipped over here. There's so much involved in that answer. So I encourage you just to dig into it and read those two books. I think it really helped me. If you think that this helped you, please leave a comment and tell me what you liked about it. We look at that as to what videos that we're going to make in the future. If you know anybody that this could help, please send it to them. Remember, the next 2 years of your life is going to dictate the next 20 years because of so much movement that's going to be happening in the markets. I wish you the very best, you guys. Everybody stay safe. Hang on with me. I'll help you through this.